Coming up on TechZilla, what happens when we run this Pelican case over with a 7,000-pound truck, especially since my iPhone's inside. Windows 7 SP1, Robert installed it. Should you? The one time you might want to turn on Overscan. Roger's got some great video editing tools that won't break the bank. And wow, y'all had a lot to say about DIY DNS. Heat up some water and hard boil those eggs, because TechZilla starts now. This episode of TechZilla is made possible by Netflix. Go to netflix.com/TechZilla to get a free trial membership. WestHost, offering premium web hosting services since 1998, and Carbonite online backup. Start your free trial at Carbonite.com with the offer code TechZilla and get 2 bonus months if you decide to buy. I'm Patrick Norton.
Hey, and I'm Robert Heron.
Welcome to TechZilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Hey, whether you're a beginner or tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or what happens when you run over a Pelican case with a Suburban, hey, we've got an answer for you.
And if we don't, we'll track down someone who does. I know people have run over these with Forerunners that weigh upwards of 5,000 pounds. It's pretty sturdy,
That's
dude.
pretty darn sturdy.
No, really, I love Pelican cases. Otter boxes are really good too.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
You installed Windows 7 Service Pack 1 on everything in the house last night.
The notebook, the workstation, and the home theater PC. And I have another home theater PC too. I don't know if I actually got to that one yet, but pretty flawless. I did it through Windows Update, and I applied the updates as according to their instructions, which basically click it and push the button and let it go. Basically, I did it for a couple of specific reasons. One, I looked through the README notes for the Windows 7 Service Pack 1, and the thing that really caught my eye was improved HDMI audio performance. Ooh. Specifically, the connection between Windows 7 computers and the HDMI audio devices are more consistently maintained now. There used to be an issue where if you're putting the system to sleep and waking it back up, or you're turning it on and off, you could lose the sync with audio over HDMI. And hopefully this will fix little things like that where you're kind of pulling your hair out and going, why is it doing what it's doing? Also, lots of virtualization enhancements related to shared memory, aka dynamic memory, and server-side graphics rendering, what they are calling remote effects. Essentially, if you would like to run a super-powered station and then have versions of Windows 7 being virtualized out, they're basically rolling a lot of cool stuff into how you can do that and how you can take advantage of that kind of setup. That's something I've always wanted to do, but I've yet to really mess with in a home environment, is take my super powerful workstation and have it create virtual instances as needed. And then, you know what, if one goes wrong, I'll just flip the switch. But yeah, loaded it all up, Service Pack 1, completed successfully, no major issues or hiccups to report.
I'm trying to figure, does it seem like it took them longer to get to Service Pack 1 on Windows 7?
It does seem that way. I don't know specifically for the dates, comparing it to Vista or even going back further, but it was good. 32 hours of battery life from a notebook. It's a pound heavier than the standard configuration, but select the HP BB09 Ultra Extended Life notebook battery, an SSD drive, the LED display, and download the latest Intel graphics driver and HP BIOS, and you're getting stupid battery life from HP's EliteBook 8460p. That's one of their new slate of P, B, and S series business notebooks, which sport a nifty new design, a very clean new design for the HP business lineup. And it basically 32 hours?
32 hours, they're saying.
How big is this battery?
It's enough to probably add a pound to the weight of the notebook.
Still, that's
still
a 2-day notebook, roughly?
A 2-day notebook.
Darn, that's nice.
Yeah.
How about iPad 2? Hey, look for the announcement March 2nd, 10 a.m. here in San Francisco. Sadly, we were not invited. On the ebook front, though, Barnes & Noble says that they have 25% of the U.S. ebook market, a bigger market share than the company had in the physical book market. How many of those sales were on their Nook e-reader? It wasn't too clear, though.
Yeah, basically the earnings report. And yeah, it's kind of funny. Barnes & Noble has a larger share of ebooks than they do of physical real-world book sales.
I have to say the last half a dozen books I purchased have all been digital versions of the old print. But not everything's in digital form yet, so
many things
keeps me turning the actual page.
Windows 7 Service Pack 1, fantastic experience. Ars Technica says the first Windows Phone 7 patch is looking pretty ugly. The first update, not for copy and paste, but to, quote, somehow improve the update process, unquote, is hanging and in some cases bricking Samsung Windows Phone 7 handsets. This appears to be related to Samsung's Windows Phone having a rather just apparently there's like 4 or 5 different firmware levels across the phones. Meanwhile, it also looks like carriers are blocking Windows Phone 7 updates, something Microsoft was hoping wouldn't happen because, hey, if you're on Android, you know how irritating it is when your buddy gets the new OS and you're sitting there like 3 versions behind trying to figure out why you don't have the new interface. We've got a link to everything that can go wrong with Windows Phone 7 Update does in the show notes. It's a good read if you are running Windows 7 or thinking about moving to Windows Phone 7. And I think it's something that they will get right over time, but apparently it has been an awkward first update for Windows Phone 7.
I would like to see it exceed Android in the terms of where everyone who has that platform can update on the moment's notice, as soon as that update comes out.
I'm not going so far. CPU is capable of running the updates.
There you go. And I'm not asking, this is pie in the sky stuff, but it'd be nice if you could just uninstall any app and make it a totally clean install for that particular device as well, which is something is very rare in this world nowadays with mobile phones and the way they are. But and in the news that has our video editors mildly excited, Final Cut Pro looks like it's getting a big update this spring, since most of you have no interest in expensive OS X, OS 10 video editing tools. Roger Chang's got some nifty consumer options a little later on the show.
By the way,
cool.
Yeah, no, it's actually, his favorite though is still buried deep inside of Nero, I think. We'll find out and see.
Holy cow.
By the way, if your little guy shoves an SD card in the optical slot in your notebook, do not panic. Do not freak out. Get a butter knife or a slot top. I mean, don't assume you need to tear the notebook and then the drive apart to get it out. Just gently tap the notebook on the table, slot side down, then grab something fairly dull like the slot cover from a PC or a butter knife, and then gently insert your tab into the slot and sweep at an angle until you'll feel something, which hopefully isn't the lens on your DVD drive's laser.
That would be my fear.
And then you slide it out like that. At least that's what I did with Josh, our studio manager's notebook earlier this morning. Unfortunately, this does not work on pennies shoved into the CD player in the car. However, the pennies will short out the CD player in your car. Ask me.
Is this more little person action?
Little person action.
Oh!
We had a conversation about not putting change in the CD player after that happened.
Hey, it looks like a pinball machine, no? Or a gumball machine, actually.
It looks like a dead car stereo is what it looks like.
Oh, no. Hey, right about now, we usually drop our first email. Instead, we're going to settle a bet between Roger and Patrick.
We know a Pelican case or OtterBox can prevent my backpack of doom from killing electronics even when I drop them down a flight of stairs. But what happens when I run it over with a 3-ton truck? We've had success with a thumb drive in an OtterBox. Let's up the ante and put my iPhone into a Pelican 1020 and then accelerate. So, at the end of 2011, when somebody says, "What's the dumbest thing you've done?" betting Roger Chang $100 that my iPhone, and yes, my iPhone is inside this Pelican case, will survive being rolled over by my 7,000-pound truck. May or may not be one of the dumbest things, if not the dumbest thing I've done. So we definitely have a case fail, but did it protect the iPhone? Yes! I'm pretty sure that the iPhone would have been dead, and I'm pretty sure that, you know, the nice folks at Pelican didn't intend this case to be run over by a 7,000-pound truck, but the iPhone still running. That's a big plus. Notice, no cracked screen. No one should run over an iPhone, even in a Pelican case. But if you're a normal human and maybe just worried about luggage handlers tossing stuff around in the airport, Pelican case, take care of your gear. It's like one of our sponsors, one of my favorite sponsors here at TechZilla. It's called Netflix. If you haven't heard of Netflix, you're probably living somewhere where they don't actually have internet. Netflix delivers a movie directly to your home. We're talking about saving you time, money, and hassle. If you can sit on the couch and operate a remote control, you can experience the joy that is Netflix. We're talking about, well, if you're an unlimited member, instantly watch thousands of TV episodes and movies right on your PC, your Mac, or on your TV via a Netflix-ready device like the Xbox 360, the PS3, the Nintendo Wii, the Apple TV, the Roku. Plus, you can still get physical DVDs and Blu-rays by mail in a single business day. Watch as many movies as you want, anytime you want. You don't have to go to the box down by the mall and fight your way through a bunch of teenagers. No late fees, no due dates. And as a new member and TechZilla viewer, you can get a free trial membership. Do yourself a favor. Go to netflix.com/TechZilla and sign up now. And please use this URL so they know we sent you. Time to get our HD Nation on. Oh man, we were talking about this before about like I got to borrow the Samsung 8000 and use it at home for a couple of weeks. It ruined me. So we realized over lunch today that if you want to avoid the desire to upgrade your HDTV, avoid looking at the latest models in the store. That way you won't notice the shiny, silky, deep pool, lake-like, wondrous, luxurious blacks. Which, don't get me wrong,
contrast is important.
Contrast is important, but this is like a 3-year-old set, and it just doesn't have the blaks of the brand.
I'm in the same boat as you. I'm hesitant to upgrade because I'm still looking at what's coming out for 2011. But I'd like to upgrade. I'm not looking. I'm testing, but not looking.
Testing. Well, it's even worse for you because you've seen everything.
That's good though. I like that information in my head so I can make informed decisions and provide our audience with I don't know, what I'm thinking is going to be the next great product.
Samsung, LG, Sony, Vizio all have some really good stuff coming out.
They're all awesome. There's so much good work going on. And there's some up-and-comers too that I'm curious to look at for this year as well.
Are you going to hold out for a 21:9?
I want one really bad. really, really bad. I can't wait. I want to get one in for a review though. I hate to be the first to take that dive into any new piece of technology. I'd rather evaluate it and see how it really feels if I'm ready to. I'm not the early adopter person. I'm more of the.
But verify.
I'll take the 2nd gen model, always.
Hey, look, we got a video question from Gabriel.
Cool.
Hello Techzilla, this is Gabriel Feja talking about the Panasonic HDTV VT25. As you can see on certain standard definition shows, we have a black and white distortion up on the top. If you could tell us how to get rid of this, please let us know or tell us someone who can. Thanks, love your show.
Hey Gabriel, what you're seeing at the top of the screen is it's a manifestation of the closed captioning and other data information that's creeping into the video portion, the visible picture portion of the video signal. Now, the good news is that it's not a problem with your TV, but rather it's an issue with the broadcaster of that particular standard definition channel. They're allowing what they call the VBI, or the vertical blanking interval, to be shifted down a couple of lines, basically into the invisible portion of the picture where it can be seen. And
that's a no-no. I mean, engineers should not be allowing this to happen.
But you can also consider too that nowadays, with budgets the way they are, maybe having a high-quality engineer. Well, that would fix the solution, actually.
Maybe the engineer is working on other things, like keeping the hamsters, turning the generators.
But it's also an indication that you probably have the overscan disabled on your TV. Now, I mentioned one solution would be to convince that broadcaster to hire an experienced engineer who is good at basically properly syncing the vertical positions of standard and high-definition broadcasts. Pretty unlikely. A more practical option for you would be to view the HD channels whenever possible. And if you get the same channel in SD and HD, stop watching the SD version. You'll see a lot less of that with the HD feed. If neither of those options will work and you absolutely have to get rid of that annoying line, you can enable Overscan. I just can't believe I said that, though.
So that's
like the worst solution I could think of, is actually re-enable Overscan for that. But I turn it off again as soon as I'm watching something that didn't have that artifact. I've gotten used to that line, and I like seeing it there, even though you should never see it. At least I know that I'm seeing the entire picture.
Right.
With that information creeping into the visible portion of the picture and all. So I feel your pain, but you could change the Overscan setting on the TV. Some boxes, some set-top boxes, cable or satellite boxes, actually have a setting that will allow you to scale within the box itself. I try not to mess with that too much. I tend to leave it at one video output format, like 1080i output to your TV, and then do the adjustments in the TV itself. So I wouldn't, or if your cable box or satellite box, I see this on more often, has a native output mode, leave it at that and let the TV do all the scaling itself. But otherwise, leave it at 1080i output and enjoy, and enable Overscan if you have to. But otherwise, I like the line.
Want to see your video question on Techzilla? Just keep it at 20, maybe 25 seconds, upload it to YouTube, and send us a link to it in an email with video question in the subject line. And if you're lucky, if you're good, we'll put it right up on the show. Roz wrote in, I was reading the message board a month ago and came across a post that said if you turn off the Overscan on the Panasonic's G25, the pixel orbiter wouldn't work. I'd love to know if this is true because I'm scared to turn off the Overscan on my TV. Raza.
Yeah, well, pixel orbiting is, as far as my understanding goes, it's just basically shifting the picture around just slightly, usually by a pixel, just to keep it from settling on any one spot for very long.
To prevent burn-in?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So especially if you're dealing with the old school logos that used to be in the corner, where they weren't transparent and they weren't allowing any, it's basically a solid white or a solid dark object. That was not good. But anyway, I forwarded Roz's question to the good folks at Panasonic, and the response from the company's engineers in Japan was, quote, It cannot be turned off, speaking of the pixel orbiting functions. So adjust the overscan setting without fear of disabling that pixel orbiter function, and may all of your pixels be mapped one-to-one.
Unless you've got a problem with the SD.
Unless you're watching that SD feed and that data line is just messing with you. But again, complain to your broadcaster. It's tell them to hire an engineer and pay him well so that they can just correct that once and for all. It can be done. I'm telling you. Anyway, hey, the number of Blu-ray releases has skyrocketed in the last year or two, and so in the interest of time, we're not going to be listing every single Blu-ray release anymore. However, we will still highlight a few each week that we feel deserve the spotlight, and you can still get the full list in our show notes. So here are our featured Blu-ray releases of March 1st, 2011. First up, Out of Sight. Starring George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez, this 1998 Steven Soderbergh film has been released on HD-DVD, but now it gets a proper Blu-ray release. If you've only seen the hacked-up version on some nosebleed channel on basic cable, you might want to grab Out of Sight on Blu-ray. Patrick loves this movie. It's based on an Elmore Leonard novel and bridges Steven Soderbergh's early work as an indie darling with his blockbuster flicks like Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, and the Ocean's titles. The 50GB Blu-ray retains the original 1:8:5:1 aspect ratio, uses a VC1 codec, and a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 soundtrack. HighDefDigest.com's Drew Taylor calls the transfer, quote, a stunner, which is great news because there are gorgeous colors all over this flick and some really great acting. Check it out. Next up, The Cable Guy, 15th Anniversary Edition, directed by Ben Stiller. Yes, that Ben Stiller. And starring Jim Carrey, this 1996 film follows a slightly disturbed cable guy who just wants to be your friend. With an MPEG-4 AVC codec, a 240:1 aspect ratio, and a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 mix, this 25-gig disc also includes 25 minutes of deleted and extended scenes, a 6-minute gag reel, 2 behind-the-scenes featurettes, and much more. Blu-ray.com says the transfer isn't perfect, but, quote, breathes new life into this 15-year-old movie, and that it's, quote, quite good, besting by leaps and bounds the DVD that was released way back in that format's infancy, unquote. Also released this week, Bambi. That's right, this 69-year-old Disney film is being released on a 50GB disc with an MPEG-4 AVC codec, a 1:35:1 aspect ratio, all paired with the DVD as well. Blu-ray.com gives the movie itself and the video quality a perfect score, saying, quote, every frame looks as if it had been lifted from an animator's desk, and that this restoration is, quote, so beautiful, so impeccable, so utterly faithful to its source that it transports audiences back in time. The soundtrack is unfortunately not lossless, but it's close, with a 2046 kbps DTS HD high-resolution 7.1 soundtrack, and Blu-ray.com notes that while the track is, quote, gracefully but noticeably aged, it still, quote, sounds great in spite of its 70 years. And don't forget to check out our show notes for the rest of this week's releases. It's time to thank one of our sponsors, WestHost. WestHost has been offering premium web hosting since 1998. It's very affordable at 19 cents per day, and you get free US-based support available 24/7 by phone, chat, and email. WestHost even offers free website transfers, a 60-day money-back guarantee, great server performance, and one-click installs of hundreds of apps. Just visit westhost.com/techzilla to get an exclusive 25% discount off web hosting. Welcome to this week's freebie download pick. A free program that we find useful, fun, or incredibly interesting. This week, Google Earth. Google Earth lets you explore the planet, spin the globe, zoom in and out, and take a look at the satellite view of any place in the world. But that's not all. Don't forget to check out the factoids available by checking the boxes on the left-hand sidebar. From National Geographic's magazine quiz, Greenpeace articles, NASA's astronaut photography of the Earth, and more. You'll always find something new to explore. And despite the name, you're not just limited to the Earth. You can explore the stars, the moon, and even Mars. So if you're curious about the world around you, check out Google Earth.
Final Cut Pro may be the big deal in television production and even some Hollywood movies. Hey, we use it here at Revision 3, but it's kind of overwhelming for most home users and actually for some professionals too. Roger's in the studio today with Corel's new Video Studio Pro X4, targeted as a, quote, sophisticated consumer-oriented video editing tool. Does it deliver? You've been hands-on with it.
I have to say I was kind of going in it a little bit skeptical because I did use X3. It was functional, but it wasn't exactly, wow, this is a really solid product. This is...
It did edit video, and that's all you have to say about X3.
It had a lot of rough edges that kind of annoyed me. It didn't prevent you from doing stuff. It just seemed like it could have been a little easier to access certain things. And X4 basically feels like what X3 should have been, and it's completely not repolished, but polished. It does support AVC HD, which is big because now
you don't have to spend 2 hours transcoding the video off your camcorder before you can edit it on your video editing program.
Now they also do things like hardware acceleration support. So if you have CUDA or if you have Intel 2nd generation core processor with I think with the turbo, you can get a performance boost out of that. And you'll need it because there are some niggling things with this that still kind of annoy me. But for a lot of first-time users, especially who are not familiar with video editing, they include a bunch of templates and wizards to help you along.
That's actually really cool. What about export options?
So most people think, you know, the old style was, yeah, I'll dump it out the VHS and send it to grandma. Now everyone dumps it off to YouTube, or they put it up on Flickr, which accepts video, or Facebook. They actually have a function which will render it out in the appropriate spec, and then if you want to, it will actually upload it to your YouTube account or whatever Facebook account from the application itself.
And you can still do like Blu-ray or DVD formatted video?
Yes, although in this day and age, I don't know how many people do that, but it's still a nice addition because there are people who might, for example, this will allow you to do, with some transcoding, recorded video that I took from Windows Media. And so now I can actually take that and cut out the commercials, and then re-edit it and put it on a disc.
One of the things you mentioned that I was kind of surprised by is it's got support for stop motion and time lapse. Actually, wizards to help you with stop motion video and time lapse video.
So yeah, I mean it's funny because they include within a menu insert photo for time lapse, and this is something if you're really big into photography, which unfortunately I don't have any photos of right now. You actually, when you set your camera up on I forget the term for it, an envelometer, where essentially it takes a picture every 2, 4, or whatever you set it for. Typically, then you have like 100, 200 photos, and then you got to arrange it out and then make sure you have a thing to go with it. This will take it and just kind of compress it and make it into a video for you. So it's almost like a quick function button. Stop motion allows you to essentially take an image. For example, if you're doing stop motion, with a webcam, you can take each stop and then it will record each as a separate frame in a video. And if you want, you can then cut down or edit out portions of it that you don't want.
So it's polished, it handles AVC HD video, which is huge because we've been waiting for a decent, cheap application to do that for years. Wizards and templates make it easy for newbies. What wasn't so good?
So it's a little sluggish. Now, if you look at the screen, I actually have an AVC HD.
And we should point out, you tested this on your home desktop, not on the janky Core 2 Duo notebook. So
I tested this on a quad-core, a Q6600, and it worked pretty well, but it was still sluggish, and not that once. And it's more that it doesn't feel snappy. When I go to scrub the bar, there's a half-second delay that I don't get with like Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro.
Hopefully, that's something that gets addressed in an update for the app.
Yeah, and originally I thought because I'm running this is a 1080p video clip from this camera right here. I thought, oh, maybe it's the clip. Maybe it's just too big, too powerful for the process. So I dropped in one of their sample clips, which is one of these, and it still kind of does that a little bit. And it wasn't exactly a limiting factor, but it is kind of an annoying one, where you're like, hey, I want to get this done, and you got that bit of muse in your head, and you got that inspiration, you want to do it right away, and you're like, oh, well, it's kind of there when you move to different clips. Now, part of it's because it tries to make everything transparent. Typically, when you deal with multiple video formats, the actual video editing software tries to kind of compress everything together and transcode it so it's a little cleaner.
Now, compared to Final Cut Pro, this looks pretty simple, but you felt it might still be intimidating in terms of the number of features or buttons or options or...
So when I look at this, I see, okay, here's my preview screen on my left. I have all my footage, I have all my clips that I want on my right, and then I have this timeline. If I've never done video editing, it's kind of intimidating. And for most people, they're not really sure where you go. They do include a storyboard mode, which allows you to just drop clips. So like I shot the soccer game, I shot this, now I can put them all together, and I just drag the clips one by one into this kind of storyboard mode. But if you want to kind of do any of the fancy stuff, you do have to do the timeline. And they do include tutorials, but at the same time, I understand it because I've done it before.
Right.
I think my sister or my cousin would have a harder time because they've never done it before. So there is a learning curve involved in it. But you know, the same would go for any kind of video editing application of this level.
So thumbs up.
I give it a thumbs up, but with the reservation that it will be intimidating for first-time users. It probably won't be enough for hardcore users. It is trying to straddle that area where you're reaching into kind of the prosumer level.
If you think in the future you might be moving to Final Cut Pro or Premiere, would you rather people started on the sort of the dumbed-down version of those apps?
If you're going to use those applications, like in an educational setting, it's probably better if you actually use those applications in an educational setting, because there are a lot of things you need to learn. But you know, you can start with the basics. It's like the difference between using WordPad to learn how to type versus using, you know, Word or Office.
Right. Basically, if you plan on being a professional video editor, start with Final Cut Pro, start with Premiere. If you're just looking for a good tool to do stuff around the house, Video Studio gets the thumbs up.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Mr. Chang. Let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Carbonite. Let's face it, eventually your computer is going to die. Or at least you're going to have a computer disaster, and when your hard drive crashes, gets damaged or stolen or burns to the ground with your house, well, you're going to be bummed unless you have something like Carbonite Online Backup, where your files are automatically backed up safely off-site, so it'll be easy to get them back. You can access your backed up files remotely from any computer or from your iPhone or BlackBerry with a free Carbonite app. Carbonite costs just $55 a year for unlimited backup for your PC or Mac, but when you use the offer code TechZilla to start your free 15-day trial, you'll get 2 months free if you choose to buy. All the details are at Carbonite.com, and remember to use the offer code TechZilla, and you'll score 2 months free with your purchase of Carbonite. Andrew writes in, hey, Veronica, Robert, Patrick, I'm a field manager in the Bay Area and just received a 3M micro projector to go with my portable office gadgets. Now I'm looking for a 20, 30-inch pop screen. Think those windshield shades that fold up on themselves, maybe with a silver reflecting finish to aid the lack of lumens. Most of the options on Monoprice and Amazon are for 80 to 100-inch screens. Any suggestions? Maybe Patrick has a DIY solution. Ultimately, I want an ultra-portable solution for giving meetings with my new micro projector. Thanks again, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, 3M's micro projectors are about as portable as it can get. I've actually seen those integrated into cell phones nowadays, but bright output isn't their strong point, at least not yet. Now, searching online using the term, quote, high gain, G-A-I-N, portable screens, popped up several results for a particular highly reflective fold-up screen, very similar to what you just described. It comes with its own carrying case, it kind of folds up in on itself, kind of pops open and creates basically about a 22 to 32-inch screen size, depending on which one you want. The only problem I had is it doesn't look like anybody's importing this. This is all basically Chinese companies that were looking for people to sell it somewhere else, but I couldn't find anybody actually selling the darn product. So I'd like to say I also looked around for some DIY options, but that didn't look so hot either. So I turned to our wonderful TechZilla audience for assistance. If you have a solid suggestion for Andrew, or point me in the right direction to where that fold-up screen is and can be purchased, please do email us at techzilla@revision3.com.
And I should say, for everybody who's been asking for roundups of the Pico projectors, they're not hugely available from vendors. You know,
pretty much 3M.
Yeah,
and
I mean, Optoma does some pretty cool ones, like one with an iPod dock built in. Optoma, yeah.
It might be 3M's guts.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, you get a screen like this big, you probably prefer to have it in a dark room, and I would say travel with oak tag or something, because if you don't, or a pillow actually will work for the kids, but obviously you're not going to travel with a pillow to broadcast on.
No, that doesn't look too pro.
Meetings. No,
but I see the product you need, and it's just a matter of tracking down where you can actually purchase the darn thing.
There's a business opportunity here.
Apparently.
DNS responses for Evan from back in episode 193. Dave says, I just watched your show topic about DIY DNS. I agree with all you said, but if the person has a domain already assigned to him, he can set up his own pair of DNS servers to be authoritative for his own domain and set the NS records in the public DNS for his domain to point to his 2 new servers. Then he can create all the subdomains he wants. If he owns mydomain.com, he can set up joe.mydomain.com, jane.mydomain.com, etc. Cheers, Dave in Dallas, Texas.
I think that's going to be my project this weekend. I've been wanting to create those type of domain names for different parts of my site.
Just remember, if that DNS server you host in your house goes down, then everything can go down.
Yep.
And your website can disappear off the internet.
True. Hence, I have an external host taking care of all of that for me.
Yeah.
So, and I pay them quite well. Anyway, hey, Chris, a viewer named Chris adds, hey, I just watched your latest episode where you answered a viewer question about setting up a DNS server, and it got me thinking. I have Time Warner locally, and their DNS servers are horrible. I've been trying a bunch of public DNS servers with varied results. How hard is it to set up some sort of DNS server that's internal to my own network that I could point my home network at and just have that server go out and pull DNS server data from public servers at different intervals? I don't know if it's really possible, but I think it would greatly increase browsing resolving speed. Ooh. On a somewhat related note, anyone interested in checking out their own DNS performance should check out the freeware DNS benchmark application by Steve Gibson over at grc.com. Thanks, signed Chris in North Carolina. Now, Gibson's benchmark is definitely interesting. Download Google's Namebench too if you're interested as well, and we'll get a link to that. I usually roll with OpenDNS, but lately, I have switched back to Comcast's primary DNS. I ended up doing some of these benchmark tools like we've just mentioned, and it actually listed a couple of, I have Comcast as a provider, and it listed a couple of their DNS servers as being faster than the options I had available with OpenDNS.
Right.
So, since I have multiple entries for my DNS, 2 I believe on my current router, and I do all this in my router so I don't have to adjust my Windows boxes, which just, it saves time.
For people who don't know, right, you can basically select in your router or in your PC, your Mac, what DNS lookup is used for your browser, right? So if you have a really irritating situation where a misspelling resolves to some sort of advertising page or subsidy page or link page that you don't like from your ISP, you can choose OpenDNS or some other DNS provider and get, you know, what you may or may not think are better results or faster results. Actually.
I started on this whole path just because one day I was trying to type in an address and it just wouldn't resolve. And I tried several, I was like, why won't this resolve? And then I changed the DNS to something outside of my provider's DNS structure, and suddenly everything worked. And I was like, okay, just to make sure that I don't mind taking my service provider's fastest DNS server, but I'm going to back that up with maybe a more open option or from a different provider, just in case if the first one doesn't or fails, it's got the backup that can hopefully resolve it.
2 is 1, 1 is none. And to be honest with you, I do not know how to build DNS like a DNS name server you would host inside your house. If anybody has an idea on a project for that one, email us, textl@revision3.com. But you might be very interested in Eric's email, Chris. Eric writes in, check out OpenNIC at opennicproject.org. It's an organization of hobbyists who run an alternative DNS network. OpenNIC is owned and operated by the OpenNIC community. Membership is open to all who share an interest in keeping DNS free for all users. Our goal is to provide you with quick and reliable DNS services and access to domains not administered by ICANN. Among the freely available top-level domains are .geek, .free, .bbs, .parody, .oss, .indie, .fur, .ing, .micro, .din, and .gopher. Best regards, Eric. Now that sounds really fascinating because they're essentially creating domains that can't be seen normally. That's kind of like...
Can I just come up with my own extension?
That's like sci-fi.
.rob.
.naughty.
.naughty. Know where your brain's going.
For everybody watching, we live on your questions. Email us, techzilla@revision3.com. Tech help, product reviews, how-tos. You ask us, we'll do it, but we need those emails, so don't be shy. Send them in, please. Send them in to techzilla@revision3.com or to @techzilla on the Twitter, or @Robert Heron, or @Patrick Norton, or @Veronica.
Or you can get me at Robert@HeronFidelity if you want to email me. Why do I do that?
Because you work the mail, baby.
Hey, thank you so much for watching.
I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Robert Heron.
Till next time, you've been watching Techzilla.